I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption.
Happy New Year, everybody. Mike Uyak here for Recipe Redemption. It occurred to me that one of the little specialty things that I brought to our family Christmas party this year is actually appropriate for this channel. It's sort of the WTF theater. And there's nothing really to redeem, which is why I'm just gonna make the dish. And it's butterbeer, of Harry Potter fame. It's not a fictitious thing. It's actually a real drink, and it's kind of vintage. The first reference to it that I found was the Good Housewife's Jewel from medieval England in 1585. And according to the recipe, to make buttered beer, take 3 pints of beer, put 5 yolks of eggs in it, strain them together, and set it in a pewter pot to the fire. And put to it half a pound of sugar, 1 pennyworth of nutmegs, beaten, I don't know how you beat a nutmeg, but whatever, 1 pennyworth of cloves, beaten, and a half pennyworth of ginger, beaten. I'm assuming they mean put this in a mortar and pestle and crush it up. And when it is all in, take another pewter pot and brew them together. Sure. And set it to the fire again. And when it is ready to boil, so ready to boil but not boiling, take it from the fire and put a dish of sweet butter into it and brew them together out of one pot into another. So basically pour them from one to the other, makes it nice and frothy, and it helps to emulsify the mixture. So if you remember from the Harry Potter books and movies, the students get pumpkin juice at every meal, and to me that doesn't sound all that appealing, quite frankly. You don't really get any detail as to what pumpkin juice is. If they're just juicing pumpkins, one hopes at least they're sugar pumpkins, so they're at least a little sweeter. But even then, it's like, it's a little too healthy for my liking. But once they reach a certain age, and I think it's 14, with parents' permission, you can visit the village of Hogsmeade, where among the many activities that you can do, you go to the candy store and whatnot. But there is also a tavern there where you can get butterbeer. And as the recipe indicates, it is actually beer. So in the Harry Potter universe, 14-year-olds are drinking beer. Now mind you, you do heat it. Some of the alcohol might evaporate off, but there's still a good bit of alcohol left. So if you do make this recipe, use your best judgment as to whether or not you actually offer this to any of the teenagers in your home. So let's get started. Now mind you, I am only going to make 1 serving of this rather than an entire recipe, because it's not the holidays. I'm not making a big batch of this for all my family and friends or anything. And between the two of us, I'm the only one who's going to drink this, and between me and Chris. So going to start off with ale, and I have just a simple winter ale here,
Which I'm pouring into a microwavable Pyrex measuring cup. Normally, if you're doing a full batch of this would be on the stove top in a saucepan, but again, I'm only doing 1 serving, so we're nuking it. Now, to your ale, you're adding your spices. Here's the nutmeg, ginger, and clove. Add it in and stir to combine. And yes, you're stirring beer, and you've just added a whole bunch of nuclei. So yes, all the carbonation is going to come foaming out. So just make sure it doesn't overflow. And you're going to be heating this, so all the carbonation is going to come out anyway. So don't worry too much about that. Microwave this until it's warm but not boiling, and my microwave I'm doing 2 minutes. Yours may need more or less depending on what power it is. In the meantime, I'm adding an egg yolk to another measuring cup and adding demerara sugar. I'm using about a tablespoon, give or take. You can use brown sugar or even just regular white sugar in this, but demerara has kind of the flavor profile I'm going for. And just give this a whisk. Make sure that the egg yolk is fully broken up and stirred around. You're not going to dissolve all the sugar. Don't worry about that because the sugar granules are too big for that. Don't worry, you're going to be adding hot liquid to it in a second, and the sugar will dissolve just fine. Now I have my ale mixture out of the microwave. I'm giving it one last stir before I start to temper my egg yolk. I'm going to add just a little bit of the hot ale mixture to my egg yolk and sugar. What I'm doing is bringing the egg yolk up to temperature slowly so it doesn't scramble when I add it into the hot liquid later. Just add a little bit at a time. A little splash. That might have been a little too generous there, but it turns out okay, so it's fine. But you're just slowly raising the temperature of the egg yolk so they don't scramble. You don't want chunks in this. This isn't bubble tea. And once it's come up to temperature, add it back into the hot ale mixture and stir to combine. And last but not least, big old knob of butter. And it helps if you actually let the butter come up to room temperature before you add it into this. It melts a whole lot faster. I didn't have that kind of forethought, so this is going to take a little while. Let's skip ahead.
Okay, seems to be combined pretty well. Butter's all melted. Just going to pour it back and forth, like the recipe says, from one container to the other. Almost like cold coffee. Just gonna mix it that much more. Help the lecithin in the butter to emulsify everything together. And for service, I've got a delightful mug. Perfect for a warm winter beverage. Cheers. Yeah, that tastes like Christmas in a cup. There is still the slight hoppiness, nuttiness of the ale itself. But combined with the spices, with the sugar, the creaminess of the butter, as well as the egg, which also has lecithin in it to help emulsify the whole mixture together. It's creamier. It's like a meal in a cup. It's creamy. It's actually quite kind of filling in a way, and it's got booze in it, so not can't really argue with that. So in a way, it's like a hot toddy. It's like the hot buttered rum. I remember from like the 80s, we used to have hot buttered rum around particularly New Year's. It's the same sort of idea, but with beer instead. If you're the type of person who doesn't like beer, this may or may not, depending on just how much you dislike beer, this may or may not change your mind, or be that special instance where you'll tolerate beer. Like I said, I'm the only one who'll drink this because Chris can still taste the beer in it. But it's like a winter baked, a Christmas baked good, because you have that sort of breadiness from the beer, along with the spices and the sweetness that you've added to it. It's really a very simple beverage, but really quite tasty. Yeah. One word of warning, these do go down pretty quickly, very easily. So keep count. Or otherwise, you might actually tell your family and friends what you really think of them. That is quite delightful. So, I'm looking forward to a productive new year here on this channel. As always, I'm open to any suggestions or ideas that you have for me. Please comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Matter of fact, I just got the first recipe from one of the viewers that he wants me to try and redeem. So look for that in the coming weeks. And until then, I'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Mike Uyak. I'll see you next time.